Hi, pixel art has long since stopped being just retro nostalgia. Today, it's one of the most expressive visual styles in the industry. Modern developers use it not because of limitations, but as a deliberate artistic choice, with dynamic lighting, smooth animation, layered depth, and incredible attention to detail. As a result, pixel worlds don't feel simpler. In many cases, they actually feel more atmospheric and alive than plenty of photorealistic projects. Over the past few years, we've seen an entire generation of games prove that pixel art can be cinematic, dark, cozy, epic, and even technically ambitious. In this video, I've gathered the best of them. Let's start with Core Keeper. The underground world of Core Keeper feels like a cozy dream mine. Soft lighting, warm pixel colors, shimmering crystals, and the constant sense that the next tunnel might lead to something rare. The game blends survival and adventure seamlessly. You wake up beside a mysterious core, and from there it's just you, your pickaxe, your curiosity, and the urge to dig toward the next discovery. The core gameplay loop is built around simple actions that are surprisingly satisfying to repeat. You mine, expand your base, craft gear, grow food, fish, and build equipment tailored to your playstyle. The world unfolds in layers. Co-op is where it really shines. It's easy to split roles with friends, and loot runs start to feel like full-on expeditions. Whisper of the House. This is pixel anti-stress at its best. Whisper Town is presented like a living diorama. Tiny animations, thousands of objects, charming little details you only notice if you slow down and really look. What's sitting on a shelf, what's hidden in a drawer, and why there are so many random trinkets everywhere. You play as the local jack of all trades, helping residents move in, unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, restoring small shops and homes, and sometimes literally hunting for cats. But the game doesn't force a single correct solution. You can decorate your own way, experiment with layouts, collect furniture, and slowly build your own cozy space. At the same time, Whisper Town weaves in light puzzles and small stories, so a simple cleanup session can unexpectedly become part of a larger mystery. Octopath Traveler 0 takes the recognizable 2D look and gives it a more mature tone. Lighting, depth of field, effects, and scene composition feel almost like a miniature stage performance. This time, the story doesn't split into 8 separate arcs. You create one main protagonist, and the journey becomes a path of revenge. Gameplay-wise, it's still the Octopath formula fans love. Turn-based combat, exploiting enemy weaknesses, smart timing, and the ability to turn a fight around in your favor. But this entry adds new layers. Rebuilding your hometown isn't just background flavor, it becomes a second pillar of the adventure. You're actively bringing people back, unlocking buildings, and developing infrastructure. On top of that, you can recruit dozens of allies and form parties of up to 8 characters, adjusting your strategy for specific boss fights and situations. Sun Haven. This is full-on fantasy. Bright pixel characters, magic everywhere, and the feeling that you're living inside an adventure story. There's plenty of dialogue, story quests, and relationship building with NPCs. The game clearly wants you to do more than just farm. It wants you to become part of the town. Structurally, it's a farming sim that fully embraces its RPG side, with progression built around multiple skill trees. Co-op supports up to 8 players, making it easy to divide responsibilities. And your character isn't just a temporary guest. Your progress and inventory carry over between modes. What really stands out is the scale of the world. Beyond the starting town, you'll travel to entirely different regions with distinct vibes and content, like the elven city of Nelvari or the demonic Withergate, where the resources, activities, and overall atmosphere shift dramatically. Kingdom 80s. This is Kingdom dressed up in neon and synthwave. Summer camps, bicycles, suburban streets, shopping malls. It feels like you're playing through a pixel art coming-of-age TV series. At its core, though, it's still recognizable. A micro-strategy game about expanding your base, defending it, and constantly managing your coins, just presented in a more narrative-driven and linear way. The real highlights are the visuals and the sound. The pixel art is lit in a modern way, with vibrant colors, strong contrast, and environmental details that remain readable even during chaotic nighttime attacks. The main downside is that the campaign is relatively short and doesn't offer the same long-term sandbox replayability that other entries in the series are known for. If you play it in one go, it can start to feel a bit repetitive. Wandering Sword. A rare case where a Chinese pixel art game looks like a fully realized painted postcard. Soft visual effects, layered environments, and carefully staged scenes. In spirit, it's pure Wuxia, the journey of a young disciple in a world of martial art, intrigue, and personal vows. The adventure constantly shifts in tone, moving from small village dramas to much larger, more serious conflicts. Combat takes place on a grid, and the game lets you switch between turn-based and real-time modes, so you can adjust the pace to your preference. In turn-based battles, tactics matter, positioning, attack ranges, and ability cooldowns all play a key role. You can't just spam your strongest technique at the start. Timing and planning make all the difference. Songs of Conquest. This feels like a continuation of classic 90s turn-based strategies, reimagined through modern technology and a strong artistic vision. Pixel units and heroes exist in fully layered environments with soft lighting, dynamic shadows, mist, and rich colors, making the world feel not just retro, but truly alive and cinematic. The artists clearly focused on expressive animations and highly detailed maps. Gameplay follows the spirit of old-school strategy. You control a mage warlord, explore the map, capture mines, gather resources, develop cities, and build armies from diverse units. The key twist in combat is the essence system. Different units generate different types of magical energy, which you then use to cast spells. That turns army composition into a strategic toolkit, not just a collection of strong creatures. Battles play out on a hex grid, where terrain, distance, and turn order create a fast-paced tactical rhythm that rewards smart positioning and ability synergy. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, a JRPG with dimensional environments, while the characters remain fully pixelated and incredibly expressive in motion. It clearly aims to be a spiritual successor to Suikoden 2, with warring nations, a grand journey, and a strong focus on a living, evolving cast of heroes. The main appeal isn't just 100 characters as a gimmick, it's the joy of building your team. Some allies join after their own mini-story arcs, others after specific challenges, and many have small quirks that make them memorable. At the same time, your headquarters grows alongside you, gradually becoming the center of your world, unlocking services, activities, and bonuses. Combat sticks to classic turn-based fundamentals with skills and combos, but the game constantly shifts gears, from duels to large-scale war battles to a variety of minigames, so the journey never feels flat or repetitive. Eastward. Proof that modern pixel art can be cinematic. Dense environments, a rich color palette, tons of micro-animations, and scenes you'll want to pause just to take in the details. It's the story of John and Sam, a duo trying to survive in a world where civilization is slowly falling apart, yet people still joke, argue, and try to live normal lives. The gameplay isn't about hardcore action, it's about the journey. You explore towns and dungeons, solve simple but satisfying puzzles, fight enemies, and then dive back into dialogue-driven scenes and storytelling. What many players love is how effortlessly the game shifts genres. One moment you're in a Zelda-like dungeon, the next you're in an odd slice-of-life scene, and then suddenly you're hooked on the built-in mini-RPG, Earthborn. The characters stay with you long after you're done, and the world somehow feels warm, even in the middle of a post-apocalypse. Triangle strategy. What makes this game stand out is how it brings pixel characters to life through cinematic lighting and depth. Snow-covered fortresses, council chambers, torchlight, and drifting fog look like an expensive diorama rather than simple retro styling. The tone is serious. This is a political story about war and the cost of decisions, where every alliance and promise eventually comes back with consequences. Tactics here are all about positioning and battlefield math, elevation, range, flanking, and follow-up attacks can determine the outcome even when both sides seem evenly matched. A defining feature of the story is the scales of conviction system. Major choices aren't made by pressing a button, but by persuading your allies to support your decision. It feels almost like an interactive political novel, with carefully developed motivations and genuinely difficult choices. Bloomtown, a different story. It looks like a cozy postcard from small-town America in the 1960s, until you realize there's something darker growing beneath those picture-perfect streets. The pixel art is modern and beautifully crafted. Soft colors, clear silhouettes, and expressive little details that sell the feeling of summer vacation, where something deeply strange has started to happen. At its core, it's a hybrid, a story-driven JRPG mixed with social activities and creature collecting. In battle, you weaken demons, add them to your collection, and build synergies through a fusion system to unlock new team combinations. Between expeditions, the game shifts to everyday routines. Hitting the gym, working part-time jobs, tending a garden, exploring the town's secrets, and engaging in conversations that slowly come together into a detective story about disappearances and nightmares. ANNO Mutationem, a cyberpunk world you want to admire like an art book. 2D pixel characters move through fully 3D environments, making the city feel deep, layered, and alive. Neon signs flicker, and many scenes look almost like carefully staged anime sequences. Structurally, it's not a traditional Metroidvania. The game splits its time between city hubs, conversations, side quests, exploration, and dungeon segments where the action and combat take over. The fights focus on speed and switching between tools, but they're fairly straightforward. Enter an area, clear a group of enemies, grab the loot, move on, and then return to the story and urban exploration. The narrative plays just as important a role as the gameplay. Star Ocean, the second story R. This remake of a cult classic JRPG doesn't just update the original, it reimagines its visual style through modern pixel art. Characters and monsters are rendered in detailed sprites that blend seamlessly with 3D environments, dynamic lighting, and depth effects. The familiar retro design ends up looking vibrant and dimensional, while still preserving the spirit of the original. It's a large-scale story with branching narrative paths and a dual protagonist system that changes the perspective and progression of events depending on who you choose. The real-time combat system remains one of the most dynamic in the JRPG genre. Fast combos, skill customization, and active control of the entire party create a level of intensity that's rare for the genre. At the same time, the remake speeds up the overall pacing and significantly improves the interface, something many players have especially appreciated. UnderMine 2. Visually, the sequel takes a noticeable step forward compared to the first game. The pixel art is richer, animations are smoother and more detailed, yet everything remains readable even in chaotic fights. The dungeons are packed with small visual touches, particle effects, and lighting that add depth and make the procedurally generated environments feel alive. Gameplay sticks to the roguelite formula but expands it with deeper build variety, progression systems, and item synergies. Each run is shaped by random artifacts, curses, and upgrades that directly influence your playstyle. Whether you lean into aggressive melee combat or a more cautious approach with ranged attacks and magic. Because of that, every run feels distinct, and progression isn't just about numbers, but about mastering the mechanics. Sea of Stars. This game became one of the standout examples of modern pixel art by blending classic sprite work with contemporary lighting and post-processing. The environments look like illustrated storybooks, soft lighting, layered backgrounds, rich colors, and worlds filled with tiny details and hidden secrets. The animation deserves special mention. The sprite work is expressive and noticeably more refined than traditional retro styles. The combat system draws inspiration from classic JRPGs but adds active timing mechanics, combo attacks, and the ability to break enemy locks. That extra layer keeps turn-based battles engaging and avoids monotony. Exploring the world includes vertical traversal, platforming elements, and light puzzles, making the overall gameplay feel more dynamic than many traditional entries in the genre. Mercury Abbey immediately stands out with its dark Victorian pixel art, which feels more like an interactive Gothic illustration than classic retro graphics. Dim corridors, a muted color palette, and subtle lighting and shadow work create the atmosphere of a mysterious abbey where every room looks like a scene from a detective novel. The modern pixel style here isn't about nostalgia. It's about mood, detail, and careful staging. Gameplay focuses on narrative adventure with investigation and puzzle elements. You gradually uncover the secrets of a confined space and its inhabitants. Exploration rewards attentiveness. Dialogues, discovered clues, and logical connections build your understanding of events rather than handing you direct answers. The game prioritizes storytelling and atmosphere over action, resulting in a slower, more meditative pace. The Survivalists uses bright, highly readable pixel art with a cartoon style, which makes even chaotic island survival feel light and visually inviting. The environment is packed with small animations, rolling waves, crackling campfires, roaming animals, shifting weather, giving the world a sense of motion and life despite its seemingly simple graphics. The core gameplay revolves around survival, crafting, and automation through trainable monkeys that can copy your actions. This creates a unique progression system. Instead of constant manual grinding, you gradually build a small production chain, delegating gathering, crafting, and construction tasks. Exploring islands, diving into dungeons, and searching for rare resources adds an adventurous layer on top of the traditional survival formula. Morbid, the Seven Acolytes. This is dark, brutal pixel art with a clear horror aesthetic and strong Lovecraftian vibes. The art style is intentionally dense with detail, blood, decay, grotesque boss designs, and heavy color contrasts create the feeling of a corrupted, dying world. Visually, it feels like a pixelated Soulslike, presented from an isometric perspective with a focus on raw, grim stylization. Gameplay centers around challenging combat, stamina management, dodge timing, and thoughtful use of weapons and perks. Every enemy can punish mistakes, and bosses are built around memorizing patterns and proper positioning. The sanity system adds another layer. The character's mental state directly affects stats and difficulty, reinforcing the constant tension. Lost Ruins stands out for the way it combines cute anime-style pixel art with genuinely dark and violent content. Bright character sprites, detailed monsters, and flashy magic effects sharply contrast with the horror aesthetics of dungeons, traps, and brutal encounters. Visually, it feels like a modern take on classic 2D action games, but with far more expressive animation and lighting effects. Gameplay blends Metroidvania elements with survival mechanics, where resources, status effects, and proper equipment are crucial. It's not just about attacking, you need to consider elemental interactions, fire, freezing, and environmental effects. You can flood the ground with water, strike with lightning, and trigger chain reactions. The combat is deliberately tactical. Even basic enemies can become dangerous if you ignore mechanics and rely purely on damage output. Tales Noir uses pixel art not for nostalgia, but as a tool to create a dense noir atmosphere. Neon lights, rain-soaked streets, dark alleys, and muted colors build a strong cyberpunk detective vibe. A future version of Vancouver is presented through layered backgrounds, dynamic lighting, and detailed scenes, making the world feel cinematic and alive despite its 2D foundation. At its core, it's a narrative-driven adventure and detective story built around dialogue, investigation, and moral choices. You play as Private Detective Howard Loader, gradually unraveling cases that turn out to be far deeper than your client's personal problems. Instead of action, the game leans into atmosphere, pacing, and psychological tension, encouraging you to pay attention to every line of dialogue and every environmental detail. Modern pixel art today is about style, mood, and artistic vision. These games prove that even with simple sprites, developers can create deep worlds and striking visual identities that truly stay with you. And each project on this list approaches it differently. The sheer variety of genres shows that pixel art has long outgrown its retro roots and become a fully realized modern direction in game design. The Image Game Channel was with you. Have a nice day.